So if you were watching the Super Bowl, you know that Tesla got tons of publicity. This is Randy Kirk. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and do all that kind of good stuff. And of course, I'm still looking for those not the last 6 Patreon, but the 6 that I need to get started on the plan. Okay, so this is Sunday night, where I intend to every week give you kind of a head start on the week in terms of what things might be impacting Tesla and Tesla stock in the coming week. But this was Super Bowl Sunday, so we would be remiss if we didn't talk about probably one of the most important things that might be affecting Tesla sales next week. And that is, of course, that Elon Musk was, I'm sure, the only industrialist who was mentioned by the broadcast team as being at the Super Bowl with this picture on the screen along with the Murdochs. That 15 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever it was would have cost a couple of $1 million. This is the genius that we are following and that we're investing in. So that was just one element of the game and the last 4 hours that might be interesting to us in the coming week to see how that plays out. The number 2 thing, of course, was that there was a couple of EV commercials. The first EV commercial was about the General Motors line. Oh, I'm sorry, I think there might have been 3, depending. Well, anyway, there was the General Motors commercial. It was reported that the Tesla, the number of people looking up Tesla on Google shot to the maximum just almost immediately during and after that commercial. And then there was the odd Chrysler Ram commercial where they talked about their Ram that will not be out until the end of 2024. And it was, funny, off color a little, ribald, if you will, comparing the ability to keep a charge with some other kinds of things that we need to keep. And it was cute. It was kind of funny. But the funny part was range anxiety, maybe for every other car on the market, but not for Tesla. So I haven't heard what happened to the numbers for Tesla after that commercial. But let's just say that once again, the entire Super Bowl would have been a huge benefit to Tesla in terms of keeping electric vehicles in front of mind, keeping people interested in EV, and a free few minutes for Elon. Now, there was another drama associated with the Super Bowl today, which is that Dan O'Dowd, the weird fellow who competes with Tesla in the area of software designed for running autonomous vehicles, has been, in my opinion, fraudulently making claims about Tesla, their full self-driving, what it can and can't do. There was supposed to be a commercial, and on Twitter, you could see the commercial that was supposed to run in the Super Bowl. Now, I didn't watch the hour of pregame, and I didn't watch the post-game, so maybe it showed up somewhere that I'm not aware of, or maybe it was, I don't know if the Super Bowl has any regional advertising where they break it up, but whatever it might be, it certainly wasn't in the guts of the show. It wasn't in the main body of the show. Having said that, we also wonder whether this commercial showing a Tesla driving around and hurting, theoretically hurting some cardboard stand-up dummies would hurt Tesla or not, or help Tesla, because the old saying about any publicity, obviously he's designed it to hurt Tesla, and maybe Tesla will be starting to do some things. I read where Tesla might have been putting out a cease and desist letter with regard to that commercial. But in any case, that was a little drama. I didn't see the commercial. If you did, put it in the comments below, and we'll see. So I bring all these things up, not only because it's the news of the day, and it would be silly for me to do the show tonight without mentioning all of this, but also we can watch this week. It'll be really interesting to see the impact on Tesla sales. Do we start to see some of the timeline extend on some of the dates where people can take delivery in the United States or all around the world, because the Super Bowl, of course, is watched all around the world. So that'll be interesting. So keep your eyeball out for what impact the Super Bowl has. All right, what else are we looking for this coming week? Oh, Tesla just did lower some more costs on Model 3s and raise some more costs on Model Ys. So there seems to be an imbalance. The Model Y just seems to be taking over, even with the additional production in Texas and of course in Shanghai, but mostly we're talking, I'm sorry, in Berlin rather. But we're mostly talking about what's taking place in Texas in terms of the US market, where these price increases have been put on the Model Y. But we're also seeing these decreases on Model 3, which may suggest that demand is a little soft on Model 3. Something to watch for, something to look at. Okay, what's coming up this week? We have the CPI and the PPI. So the Consumer Product Index and the Producer Pricing Index. You're probably well aware of the Consumer Pricing Index, and it's going to be the thing that most affects the Fed in terms of what they're going to do at the March meeting. In terms of raising another 25 basis points, or whether they now take a pause, or whether they indicate even additional increases in the future. So they're going to be looking at this. I don't have a crystal ball. I have no special knowledge to know whether or not the CPI is going to be within the range of what the street thinks, whether it'll be beneficial, whether the Fed will be excited. But what I can tell you is the way for me, the way I watch it is to watch the bonds. So going into the CPI report, where are the bonds going? Well, in the last week, they've been going up, up, up. Okay, so the 25 basis points that the Fed raised on Feb 1, that 25 basis points now has been built into the bonds. Now, is that predicting the next 25, or is that in response to the previous 25? Always, of course, impossible to know. But we're still only at 3.7, I think, roughly. And so that's still underestimating what the Fed is thinking that inflation is. So watching what happens to the bonds up to the announcement of the CPI, and also what happens after, I think is what I watch. I also watched cryptocurrencies, which have been coming down this last few days, because they would be as much of a go-go item as any item is. And so that it would tend to go down if the CPI is expected to be high, therefore causing more inflation, more worries of inflation by the Fed. The other thing I do look at is oil. Oil prices have been coming up all week, but they would still be lower than they were this time last year. The trickle through the economy is really hard to say right now because it was lower and now it's a little higher. So in general, if I were going to really pay any attention to the CPI at all, I'd be looking at the same thing that the Fed chairman is looking at, which is housing and groceries. So groceries have been kind of out of control, and housing has not started to come down on the numbers that the CPI reports, even though what we're hearing from real estate people is that the housing prices are down 15 to 20% and rents are at least flat. So watch those two numbers in particular. If you want to at least hear what I look at, that's what I look at. Okay, PPI, maybe you watch them, maybe you don't, but the producer price index is also critical. What the wholesalers and manufacturers are paying for raw materials and from purchasing from manufacturers is going to go through the economy up to retail in the months ahead. So we would like to see a continuation of the PPI being at low levels, and the Fed will certainly be looking at that as well. So check that out and see how that does as well. I'm very interested right now too in month to month as being a better guide than the year to year. What we're looking for is flat or down on month to month, or certainly not more than 0.1, 0.2% up. So that would be the most important thing that we're going to be seeing this week in terms of the reporting from the government agencies and whatnot. We also, I also take a look at the stock market around that time to see how it responds. And one of the things to look at is the comparison between the Dow, the NASDAQ, and then as Kathy Wood calls it, the ARK index. So if you look at the stocks that she follows and you watch how they're going, Tesla most duplicates the other ARK investment funds. I keep them in a row on my phone so I can kind of watch and see. I don't know why Tesla continues to follow those because Tesla is much more of a value stock today than any of those are. But that is how the market is still looking at Tesla. And you can see it. It tends to follow those stocks even more than it follows the NASDAQ. And it definitely doesn't follow the Dow. If the interest rates are going up, it's even possible that the Dow will go up. Okay, because those are these long-term institutional stocks and the groceries and others, much more solid companies, which do okay sometimes in recessionary situations. And so then the Dow might go up on the basis that long-term, it's a good idea to get the inflation out of the system. And so these really solid companies benefit from the Fed being strict. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, much, even though it's less go-go than Cathie Wood stocks, it is still the go-go stocks and therefore more sensitive to both inflation and also certainly the interest rates. All right. The China insurance numbers, I would really be looking at those this week, which come out on late Tuesday, so usually available for most of us to see on Wednesday. How did Tesla do in the first really full week that we can pay attention to? And this month, so far this month to date, even be better to see it the third week, but after the Chinese New Year and everything's over, now we're going to really get to see trends. How is Tesla doing in those insurance, in the numbers of cars that are being registered by the insurance company in China? It obviously can be offset and by exports. We do know that there's Model Ys being delivered for the first time, or Model Y performances being delivered for the first time in Australia right now. So we know there's export taking place as well. And so it's always hard to know what the final numbers will be until we see them, but it's a trend. It's something to look at, get some kind of an idea. Okay, the next one is, we had the first nod to the insurance business outside of the Elon Musk mission. We spent a very large chapter talking about the insurance business and the potential in the billions of dollars of earnings from Tesla Insurance as they start marketing it to more and more states and more places around the world. Well, apparently in Europe, it's about ready to pop. They're in a couple of countries now, but maybe European wide, they're starting to move into being able to sell insurance. More and more states in the United States, of course, are adding insurance. As this happens and as more people become aware of the insurance, then hopefully the take rate as a total of all insurance goes up, and then Tesla's numbers could be quite substantial. And like I say, the first nod, there was a tweet over the weekend where somebody had taken and done a spreadsheet, which was a decent looking spreadsheet in terms of expectations about how things might go. Their statement was that the insurance portion of the business is worth $100 a share right now. I'm not 100% ready to say that, but all I can say is it's a huge business, huge potential profit business. And yes, his numbers could very well be true. All right, next is, this would be a week to start seeing whether we see the beginning of a run-up by people that are anticipating the March 1 investor meeting. This investor, I've mentioned on other YouTube videos, this is going to be monumental. This is going to be a worldwide major event that is going to affect everyone in the world's future. I don't know how to say, I wish I could say it in a way that would be even more grandiose, because it is almost impossible to talk about this March 1 meeting in a way that is going to overstate how important it is. Elon is going to be announcing the way that we get to sustainable energy. I assume with great detail. How do we get enough minerals? How do we get enough refining? How do we get enough battery factories made? How do we get enough cars made, et cetera, et cetera? And he's going to lay out Master Plan 3. It is an important day. You could either see a run up in price between now and March 1, and then maybe some selling on the news, or maybe it's not as exciting as everybody thought, or maybe the street doesn't get it. And so you see a little bit of a downturn that day or the next day. But generally speaking, you also see a run up after these kind of announcements during the next few weeks afterwards. That's a trend which was completely broken at this last meeting, the what do you call it? The earnings meeting, where we saw that there was an increase in valuation during the earnings call, and then continued for the next couple of weeks. So anyway, you never absolutely know, but one thing I would anticipate, I would think we would start to see a run up. The price will be going up, up, up as we get close to March 1, as people anticipate the news that's going to be made that day. Then this week, looks like we're finally going to get the version 11 of FSD. Once that comes out, once people start driving it around a little bit, we start getting some on the street reporting from it. That could move the stock. This is a major change. Of course, this is where everything goes into one stack. You've got the same computer using neural network training to do both city streets and freeways all in one. And this will be a completely, as Elon says, it's a complete rewrite. So it's taken way longer than they expected it to, but it is theoretically one day this week, it's probably going to pop. Watch for that to pop, and then watch for the YouTube videos from the regular players and see what they have to say about this new version. It may be that it takes a couple of weeks. They may have to have a version 11.3, 11.4, 11.5 before it really gets all the bugs out. Sometimes there's one step back after a major change like this, but we don't know. It's something you should be watching. And then finally, Elon mentioned today that the Starship launch is coming soon. He had earlier intimated that it would be in early March, but now he says it's soon. He changed the tone just a tiny bit. So does that mean it might be before early March? Either way, the Starship thing rubs off on Tesla. Okay, it just does. The more stuff that Elon Musk does that's successful, the more of an indication there is that Elon Musk is a guy who can almost do no wrong, and therefore it rubs off on Tesla. So that's kind of a rundown of what to look for this week. If this content is helpful, if you enjoyed it, just like, subscribe. I know that you know what to do, and I need some more folks on Patreon. This has been an interesting week. I think the coming week, especially 2 weeks from now on the 1st, oh my gosh. So looking forward to enjoying that time with you. And for today, it's been great talking to you.